One, two, three, four.
So tell me, Gillian, so in your research, I know a big part of what you've really shared with the world is what are the benefits? So we have these little micro moments of connection. We say hello to the barista. We say hello to somebody at the dog park. We say hello to a colleague when we walk into the office. So can you tell us a little more about all the benefits that happen when we talk to strangers?
Yeah, and we're still learning. So the first benefits that I found and Nick found in his research also with Juliana Schroeder was that it's just fun. Like it puts you in a good mood. I would always chat to the woman who worked at Ryerson University who was selling hot dogs. Every time I pass her, I'd smile and wave, and she'd smile and wave. And I realized that I had a bounce in my step afterwards, that I just felt good. And I
Mm.
think it made me feel that I belonged there. It made me feel sort of connected and grounded and like part of the community um, in a way that seemed completely out of proportion with the size of, what we were actually doing. It's just a smile, just a wave. It's this tiny thing, but it really meant a lot to me. So that sense of connection, positive mood, um, Nick and his colleague Stav Atir, they've found that we just learn so much. But you get advice and recommendations. When I moved to Brighton, which is where I live now, as soon as people found out that I was new, I mean, they went out of their way to recommend their favorite restaurant, or you need to check out this event, or people love to share their favorite stuff. So yeah, lots of informational benefits. And I'm doing some work right now with a postdoc named Taylor West, and we're trying to look at societal benefits. And so we're starting to see, this is just preliminary, evidence at the moment, but we're finding that you get a strangers are different than you. We our close others are very similar to us, right? We share values and preferences and all that kind of stuff. So that's partly why we learn more when we talk to strangers, because strangers are different. We don't, but that also means that it helps us get a different perspective. And it helps us build intellectual humility, openness to other perspectives.
I love the term intellectual humility. I think in a world where we've created such political polarization and a
Mm.
lot of people who believe my way is the only way, a little intellectual humility may not be such a bad thing. I know the other research, and again, apologize, I don't know if this is you or Nick, but it tends to be one of you. But it's increases optimism, trust, sense of safety, security, inclusion, belonging. You just mentioned community, connected, that we learn, that we can have a laugh, that we can have fun, and that we always say as part of the campaign, a stranger today could be a friend tomorrow. They might introduce us to a new community or to a new activity. And I really believe that, in Canada, our research shows it's only 20% of Canadians that talk to strangers every day. 43% talk to strangers a few times a week. And I always say, look, if you already do it, maybe you can do it a little bit more. And if you don't do it at all, maybe I can get you to do it for the first time because you now understand the research. And the other piece, which I think is your research, which is, actually, I think your research in the UK suggests it's 93% of the time that both parties are happy that a connection happened with a stranger. And I think Nick's research in the US shows it's 97% of the time that when we talk to a stranger, both parties are happy that it happened. So, aside from the benefits, knowing that it's usually a positive experience,
Mm.
hopefully we can inspire people 1 week of the year to give it a shot because they know that people are a little more aware. I will tell you that we've got some exciting news that the CBC has become our national media partner for Talk to a
Cool.
Stranger Week. So now we're at that scale of populational level awareness where I believe your insight is right, which is, hey, if I can give everybody permission to try it, maybe we can get more people to give it a go and recognize it's not so scary after all.
Living the dream.
When it comes to how we build connection with each other, why is this so important to us, Jillian?
I mean, you're asking me these questions. I know you know the answers. I
You're
mean,
the expert.
the research suggests that we've all read the headlines about how loneliness is as deadly to as 15 cigarettes, smoking 15 cigarettes. I think you know, researchers are still trying to figure out exactly like why, how can that be true? You know,
Yeah, yeah.
how can loneliness get under our skin and affect us physiologically, right? You know, because I grew up thinking loneliness was a feeling, right? And I think what the research is telling us is like, no, it's way more than that. It's, you know, when you're socially isolated, um, you start to see everything different. Everything seems more threatening, and then you have so much more stress in your body, and you don't have the people to help you regulate that stress. And then it becomes a chronic thing, and then you have all these negative health outcomes over the years. Um, and I think I'm going to kind of go a little bit aside from the question you asked, but um, I've been playing with a visualization in my head. I don't know if you've ever heard there's this idea about like just getting things done. And you know, you have a little vase or something, and the really important things, you have the big rocks, right? So you put those
Yes.
in your jar, right?
Yeah.
And there's only so many big rocks that fill in the jar, but once you've got them all in there, there's
And
also
the small
room for the
rocks,
smaller ones, and then there's also room for the
some
sand, right?
sand.
And I think the same is true for social connection, right? I think, you know, our close relationships obviously matter, and we need to protect those and nurture those. And we can't be complacent about them. Like they need work and effort and all that, and they're incredibly important. But then there's still room to have weak ties, you know, acquaintances. They're talking to the neighbor, talking to the colleague, even if you're never gonna, you know, share your deepest, darkest secrets or invite them over for dinner, like they still matter. And then I think strangers are the sand. You know, like we can have endless sand, so much sand. I think, you know, strangers provide benefits as well, and sometimes different ones. Like each of those different kinds of connections offer different things. We get, and so it's important to have that variety and diversity of connections as well.
I don't think you could have used a better analogy for, the role that strangers can play. And the other thing we always talk about at Gen Well when we're doing our social health workshops is really helping people understand that, if you have all these, we call them the quadrants, family, friends, neighbors,
Mm,
classmates, or colleagues, and then you've got strangers kind of encompassing those four quadrants. The
mm,
reality is, we're all going to go through periods of time. Maybe we lose a job, or maybe we fight with a family member, or
yes.
we scrap with a neighbor, and all of a sudden that quadrant of the balance of our relationships is empty because
Yeah.
we lose it. Well, those strangers may be a real value to us at that time. And so always thinking about, I do believe that all of us, many of us lean into family and friends because that's traditionally where we've got our deeper relationships from. But I think recognizing, as you say, all these places that we can get connection from, and that many of them are around us every day. But if you weren't conscious of the value of them and the opportunity that lies within them, that maybe we weren't taking advantage of them. And that's really, that's what the whole movement is about. But more specifically, to talk to a stranger week, it's really about saying, hey, these these ones might be here, around you every day, but you may not be taking advantage of them.
1, 2,